Hello, please enjoy this shadow boxing video for the world. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling are about fighting, but by the rules. But as we know, the rules have been abridged since semi-ancient times. That referred to as ancient times. Who disbelieves will have demonstrations of it inherent to, active to, and progressively attached to their logic, attached to their nature, self-value. And there are remote uses of that. A certain type of victim / hyper-victim. The human fact-achieving nature breaching method, assigned only capable of believing other things other than themselves. And right where and how. Nature shows us they have to blame something. Through its relativity, all these subject treatments that countries individually grouped it together too, where they're self-valuing and haven't already self-valued syntactically, therefore functionally. Exceptions left out, and use tactical ulterior from how nature communicates with exceptions. Exception nature. We have the same color eyes, while we have, except for how we have the different color eyes at the same time. Except for some people have the same color eyes with the exceptions too. No, not just with the eyes. There is the same course /S. It even uses how the sciences appear to be distinct. Like, for example, boxing, martial arts, and wrestling are grouped so we could discern this. The other speaks for discernment. Other speaks and spoke for the value of adult or of youth. Then is capable of defending itself in its nature of debate. It can't do that and get away with it without self-valuing criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality, aspects of nature. And uses of the sciences names with implied credibility. Implied credibility just because something's published. You have other communicated for James Madison and our founders behind him, and their plan that they went and how they went to go then get George Washington to agree, and then how they had the counter extort at 13 locations in more than 13 colonies that were entrenched, for example, with things way worse than that physical, that part of it as described. Only allowed described, but part of it separated, the subject note, where they had the laws against black, sickly distinctly a victim. And this breaching method before the America's founders were born had been sustained against Native Americans, had measured and maintained them needing to fight with each other, needing to respond syntactically, therefore functionally, to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts in nature. And this breaching method knew that they would have to do that and blame other things other than themselves, exactly the way it needed them to. Because they had perfected this since before colonialism. This had been a breaching method since before modern religious messengers were born. And those religious books are read tactically ulterior. And the difference between who's guilty with it is also used. There's self-value collusions with that. The people who defend the books or the people who counter them. And the difference is used. There's collusion. That's why how, for example, they're leaving out how both books come with real simple part that tells how to read the books and how to defend them. But rather than defend them by the rules the way they ask, so in other words, they have pseudoscience, tactical pseudoscience, / hyper-tactical, pretended to be science. And so now that we have negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, for example, with misinformation online, they have to decide that, what to do about it. Locations, areas, and states. In other words, meanwhile, they have roles with it since founding black pupils. Yeah. So in other words, know how they've been forging and switching names and pretending not to realize the significance of that. For example, where and how subjects have and have had left out the exceptions in exception nature. Again, how nature, not just because of how nature, but how That's part of the understanding that breaching method. that we're supposed to blame, for example, for things like slavery. A human factual nature breaching method had been entrenched north and south against everyone sickly distinctly. It assigned and it maintained functional for itself, for its breaching method, how other things, others ourselves, were blamed for what it caused. And how that was self-evident when people weren't asking questions. See, questions when they're asked. There's a difference between having a debate about free speech and leaving out the quality, like, for example, the person's ability to point out sequence shifts, whole fake transcripts, audio and video, changed audio and video, on and off campuses connected, all sides in criminal and civil cases originally and still. We have black pupils, whites of eyes. For example, we have the means to know, discern, who disbelieves. Agencies and courts have people planting evidences with social media because they have roles. They have the highlight progressions. So they have roles of people putting in the comments where they have the social media too as victims. So they keep everyone as victim / hyper victim. Again, because this breaching method needs other things, others ourselves, blamed for what nature is demonstrating. Boxing.